All right, well, we're unloading our grass hay for our horse, Jimmy. And Jimmy's horse we got about a year ago. And when we bought him, we were informed by the guy who we bought it from, said, don't let him get fat. Well, we didn't investigate what he meant by that. Well, this spring we learned. When he said, don't let him get fat, he told us that Jimmy had been previously foundered, is what he was saying. Well, we didn't know that. Of course, we like our horse. We got to let him get fat, and he did founder. So the point of me saying that is when somebody informs you of something, got to investigate and see what it means. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you about this thing we know as AI. Well, I grew up in the agricultural business, ranching primarily, and AI is a term we knew all my life. Artificial insemination of impregnating cows without the aid of a bull is a way that ranchers keep good genetic control on their stock. Well, now we got a new term called artificial intelligence. So now when somebody around us says AI, we got to ask them which one they're talking about. Now, artificial intelligence is something that's a big topic around here. And now our horse is getting in here. Anyway, artificial intelligence is something that everybody's all kind of excited about. And I think primarily because they haven't spent much time investigating what it means. What most people say is we need to not let data centers come. Well, we already have data centers in the state of Montana. We got 12 to 30, depends upon who you talk to and who's classifying what is a data center. We already have data centers. We have a person who running for Congress wants to go to DC. He has 3 legs of his campaign. Data centers, data centers, data centers. And he's a person who wants to put a moratorium on building them in the state of Montana. In fact, there's those politicians in the state of Montana who want to do the same. The problem with that is information. They're not really investigating what a data center is. And what is a data center? Now, the data centers they are talking about, even when you point it out to them, they don't quite grasp. They're talking about the hyperscale artificial intelligence data centers. These millions of square feet, takes lots of energy in the form of electricity and water. Well, the electrical side of that is an issue. We need to make sure that it don't raise our individual prices for paying electricity rates here in the state of Montana. That needs to be addressed. And also the water use. For those who believe that the MEIC speaker, Ann Hedges, it's the sky has fallen. You know, Chicken Little, sky has fallen. We're not going to have any water left in the state of Montana because these hyperscale data centers take in millions of gallons a day and they discharge millions of gallons a day in her view. That's not true. There are closed loop systems that, sure, they take a lot of water to fill them up, but after that's a replace rate. And we need to make sure we understand what that is. There's other ways of cooling too. But that's the most talked about one right now. In my mind, electricity and water use are technically solvable problems. We do have the need to make sure that ratepayers are protected on the electric side. So data centers, hyperscale data centers, bring your own power. And also the water. Water is a huge topic in the state of Montana already without the discussion of millions of gallons in and millions of gallons out. So water is already being studied as a scarce resource here in the state of Montana. And we do need to protect it. And we certainly should. So those things, when we talk about AI, are we talking artificial insemination? No, most people in the state of Montana are talking artificial intelligence. You know, and the other part of what's going on in the state is I went to the Bureau of Business and Economic Research meeting this last week in Billings, and AI, artificial intelligence, was part of the discussion, a significant part. In fact, if you went there, you would say they're pro-AI. Well, I'd say you're probably true in terms of the positive economic impact when it comes to property taxes and jobs. Well, any job, any construction job, when this construction is done, the people go away and work somewhere else. That's true of anything. Your house. When your house is built, they leave. And there's no residual jobs left behind at that house. However, in a data center, a hyperscale data center, the numbers show nationwide that once you build one of these, there are some jobs that are left. And oh, by the way, the property tax value, such as the tank farms over by Judith Gap for the Fergus County, they're a really good source of revenue for Fergus County. So I'm not one to tell you that I'm going to come out all against artificial intelligence and say, let's put a moratorium on them until we have all the facts. Some of the facts include we already have resource protection through the Public Service Commission and also through our permitting processes through DEQ. But here's the message to data centers, hyperscale, artificial intelligence data centers. That is, when you come to Montana, you need to come in our rules. And our rules mean we're going to protect our ratepayers, and we're going to protect our water supply. From an economic impact side, you come in to make a positive economic impact, and you have the opportunity in the state of Montana to participate in free enterprise, and we don't want to take anybody's right away to start a business. So a moratorium ain't the way to go, and we need to make sure we keep up on this issue. Now, as far as the rest of the happenings during this last week, as I get you logged in, is we need to make sure that we do pay attention to what's coming up in the next election. We do have Dan Wilson. We need to we need to elect Dan Wilson to be the next Associate Justice in Montana Supreme Court. We do not want his competitor to win that seat. And we also need to get Kurt Elmy elected as our senator to go to back to Congress. And those are our two great big ones, probably the most important ones we have in the state of Montana. And also for your local run, I am running to be your representative again. And thank you for your support. And it does take quite a bit of time, a lot of effort, as my wife can attest. It takes a lot of time away from home. So with that, just remember, when somebody tells you something like, don't let that horse get fat, it means something, investigate it. When somebody tells you about an artificial intelligence hyperscale data center, that means something. Look at both sides of the equation, not just in some emotional response to something. Don't let it happen at all costs. That's not a right approach. That's not a logical approach. I don't approach that with emotion. I approach it with logic and study, both sides of the issue. So with that, thank you very much. Again, elect Dan Wilson as the next Associate Justice for the Supreme Court of the State of Montana, and also Kurt Elmy. Thank you.